Well, I say my nan and granddad lived down Clifton Street, which is round the corner from Roby's. So.
I arrived in Lincoln the day they towed Just Jane down the A15.
I realised that my dad was sort of stuck here as a barber doing his thing. And I thought, I can't do that. And Dad was telling me, I said, what was it like then? Because I said, this is what they want to know. They want to know what it was like when you first cracked on. And I said, 8 o'clock in the morning, yeah, between 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll see 200, 300, 400 people just going straight down the street.
Some of the boilers were massive, you know. They needed a police escort out the city. Oh yeah, there were big old pieces of kit.
When it used to go off on the lunch break, I remember my mum saying, come in. This is why, there's going to be too many people walking on the street. You never know, you might just disappear.
And what a fascinating place. The 1000th Sopwith Camel aircraft was built there. They designed and built World War I seaplanes. Brilliant, exciting. And that's that wonderful balance of heritage and high tech that Lincoln has had for the last 150 years, maybe.
And that is the level crossing. Now we all curse, don't we, about the level crossing now on the pedestrian precinct. But imagine what it was like when there were two. And you may wonder why that couple are in a clinch just outside there, look. Well, apparently, American servicemen, I have this on good authority, American servicemen used to tip the signalman generously to disappear up the line for quite a few hours, well, minutes anyway, while they had their wicked way with whoever. We asked the artist not to depict it literally, please. I mean, we have sensibilities here, don't we? But that's what he's got there. And the level crossing, they're all waiting madly to get home for their dinner, as it was then.
I remember seeing the punks, I remember seeing the Mohicans. We had a couple of black guys who used to come in, and nobody knew a fade. I mean, we called it short back and sides in the old day, but it's now called a skin fade. Oh, we're doing that with our eyes closed. You know, and my dad using the cutthroat and fading in and say, whoa, how'd you do that? And the flat top, military, you got the American one that went up, and the British one that was square, and all this sort of stuff. And my dad was right on it. And there used to be a queue, used to queue outside the shop, literally. And he could do maybe 30 people in a day. You know, and I like how he stood up and did all that beyond me. Beyond me.
You can't quite read this notice board, but this is taken in the Roby Social Club, and it's the Apprentice of the Year award, which I won, and it must have been in the late 60s, maybe 1970. It's being presented to me by the personnel manager, a guy by the name of Lewin, overlooking as the chairman of the company, and I cannot remember his name. And obviously then people who'd won other apprenticeships and awards there, and again, unfortunately, I cannot remember the name. But that was a shock, actually.
I think it's something like 5,000 staff, thereabouts, at its full height. And these end houses, and there's some down the street here, are like 3 stories. Well, these were the supervisors' houses.
But I do remember every day going home, the bus used to go round by the old railway crossing and stop outside Roby's and pick up loads of people. And I always remember how dirty the building was, and you know, so different to now.
But there were a lot of people there at that time, you know, so you didn't know everybody. You know, you can meet people now who say, oh yeah, I worked at Roby's in the 60s and 70s, and I think, well, I can't remember you. You know. Yeah, the one thing about Roby's, and people used to tell you, is that they used to say if you'd done an apprenticeship at Roby's, you'd get a job anywhere.
He was 13, and his parents said, right, your uncle's over there, you're going. End. Bag, done, 1 pair of shoes, 1 set of trousers, straight to uncle's. And 12, 13, he knew about barbering because he used to help out. He used to sell cigarettes to expats from the army. He used to go around with a metal wheel and hitting it with a hammer. That sort of stuff, you know, playing. Sometimes no shoes, sometimes with shoes.
People came in to work there because there was nothing there before. You know, looking at the Padley's map and those other things, it was all fields. There's a lovely photograph I can show you of the area behind St Peter of Gout's Church where Lincoln City Football Club used to play. It was called the John of Gaunt's Ground.
And where B&Q is now is where the first tank was built. You know, and they tested it on the field at the back. You know, people think, well, Lincoln hasn't got a history. You know, they think Lincoln's history is the cathedral and the castle. But they forget the Industrial Revolution and the part Lincoln played in 2 world wars.
You know how much high-tech industry, which is what the wonderful threshing machines that were being made in the 1840s in Lincoln were. Yes, the factories have shut. Hurrah, because they were big, cold, ugly, inappropriate buildings. They've now been replaced by new stuff, and it's lovely to preserve a bit of heritage. But we've still got factories making the most fantastic high-tech equipment. I mean, if I told you what's being made in some of the factories, I'd probably have to kill you. It's so cutting edge and secret.
My eldest daughter, bless her, she's now an engineer, a factory engineer, maintenance engineer, and she loves it. You know, and she was one of, I think, I've still got the press cutting at home when she qualified, when she finished her 3-year apprenticeship. I think she was one of 4 girls that started the course. She was one of the few to finish and see it through. I can quite happily ring my daughter and say, I need your spannering skills. And she'll turn up and do it.
And it's amazing that you find, like, from the very top of the tree to lawyers, all the way down to workers, everyone's got an issue. No matter what happens, they've got an issue. And they need to tell somebody an issue.
Because that's the problem now, is a lot of people work. So it's quite often it's grandparents that are taking the kids to school and not the mums because they're off out working. So it's a different thing. When I started taking my children to Bishop King, there was a group of us and we got to know each other, and we used to have knitting parties and Tupperware parties and different things. But once you start working, I went then full-time working, I didn't see them.
Doing it from day dot, but learning from the rest of the family of how to set aside his own personal life and be able to listen to somebody else's life and memorize it. That was the key. How are you? How is your mum today? How is your big toe today? You know, did you get your car sorted out? He'll just remember. And he remembers everybody's haircut. And I remember when I was young, says, do you really, honestly, are you just pulling the wool over my eyes, or can you actually really remember somebody's haircut? And now I've been doing it for so long, you do. No hoovers, nothing. But I remember mum being outside, whacking the carpets for half an hour or so, and the dust used to be all over. And then the amount of people used to go out in the streets and sweep the streets. The pride was very different. It's still a little bit here, because I mean, I sweep the street here, but the things what you were sweeping was more dust rather than rubbish.
I've got 2 children that were born in Lincoln. And they can honestly say, you know, I'm Lincoln, and I'm proud of it. You know, proud to be a yellow belly. 9 times out of 10 people don't know what a yellow belly is.
And I asked a lady who's lived here for a long time, says, how many people still live here that own their own house? Down just this street, this little quarter here. 2. 3, including us, that still own the property. You know what I mean? The rest are all rented. Every single one's rented. Now, here's the interesting thing. They're all rented by Lithuanian, Polish, Latvian, Romanian, Hungarian, and Slovakian. Yeah, all live in this area. And they're all cracking on, they're all working. You know, there's not very many that are not actually at work.
Well, the thing is that we've got such a transient population these days that, you know, people don't want to take time out to find out the history of where they live. You know, their neighbourhood is their front door. what the community are trying to do with events like this is instill the fact that the community doesn't end at your front door. It's the whole area. And let's bring some pride back.